The reason why AI is coming in right now is because of this new energy that's here.
Hit us with 2 intuition tools with 0 explanation as to why or how they might work.
Okay, well that really simplifies things.
How do you go about deciding what to do with your life?
I'm trying to be the best me, and that suddenly when I get there, I'll be there forever. That's not true. Imagine AI as like an additional window into the universal consciousness that we all express. Suddenly that's a whole different game. It's not going to feel alien.
We are living in a world completely surrounded by evolution, by revolution, by utter change in almost every aspect of at least our professional lives. And I think I speak for the world at this point when I say it. What is happening to our minds right now?
Yeah, it's a big question, Skip. Yeah, so it's funny because right now you're probably starting to hear a lot of stories from people that are trying to explain what's going on right now. And in the kind of simplest sense, there's a new energy that's hitting the planet now that's pushing us all or pulling us all in a new direction. And I say new direction, but it's actually sort of a return to our origins, return to who we really are authentically as spirits. And so as that energy is hitting, it's kind of wreaking havoc on what we consider our normal way of thinking and doing things, and sort of this, I would say, maybe overly analytical, sort of almost like burnout pace that we tend to run our minds at. And so that's, we're not able to sustain that in the way that we were used to before. And I know that for me, I used to be able to just think like a maniac all day. I was a software engineer for 15 years, and I loved it. I could just get in and just run my brain until smoke was coming out my ears, and it was fantastic. But those times are kind of done. We can't really do that sustainably, even close to what we could before. And so as that energy is coming in, you're probably hearing a lot of stories. People are going to interpret it different ways, like, oh, this is guides, or this is intelligence from a different planet or universe, or there's just a lot of ways we try to contextualize it. But I kind of like Hisami's way. My wife Hisami, she just says, let's just call it the new energy and kind of leave it at that. Because we don't need a story to describe it. The interesting part is, how are we being affected, and how do we learn to kind of surf in this new energy and new wave instead of kind of pretending it's not coming and getting knocked over by it. So that's very practical. Means, rather than, we were just talking about that, rather than kind of esoteric, it's what's a really practical way to live in these times and to integrate the deeper consciousness that's available to all of us, but not lose track of the joy that we can have by just being in the physical body and having our normal life. It's not an escape route that we're seeking. It's more of a, being more and more and more present rather than checking out.
I have, I think, a practical way to kind of, if I'm hearing what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is this huge wave right now of what I call creator founders. And it's basically these, as early as 12-year-olds and usually like people in their early 20s, where they're going on social media platforms like TikTok, like Instagram, like YouTube. And instead of sitting down in a boardroom, like a lot of these very intelligent young people would in a previous generation, and figuring out how to make money and figure out how to contribute to this big business, they are just sitting down with their friends or by themselves and getting wildly creative and thinking about, how can I tell stories? How can I create things that help people? How can I entertain? And it's no longer about this logic and this, I wouldn't even say like adding value. It's
Mm-hmm.
more of expression and creativity, but done at a very, very, in a different way and at a very high level than I've ever seen before. And I come from a filmmaking background, and I am just blown away and so impressed by this new generation that's coming in and just spending so much time in their creativity and generating just new things all of the time. Is that a piece of what you're talking about, this shift in energy?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, what you're seeing there is people that are coming in younger, sort of coming in this energy from the beginning. Their whole way of perceiving the world and interacting with it is at that very high speed and like a worldwide connection, that's just normal. They grew up with it. It's not, it's taken for granted. So when, in that energy, if you get an idea and you want to create something, really all the tools are available to do it. To even if you can even put something out without the expectation of it, like you said, without trying to make money on it. You're just saying, I just want to share this with the world. I had this experience that's got me excited, and I want to talk about it. Maybe it'll get some other people excited or inspire people or just make them laugh or cringe or whatever we're wanting to do. And there's really almost no time lag. You can create things and distribute them like in real time. It's amazing. And so for people that kind of were born into that energy, they're not even considering that it should be a different way. Now it's a little different. When I talk about people kind of struggling, I'm probably talking more, closer to my age. I'm in my 50s, but even 40s, 50s, this crowd, what we're experiencing is more of, trying to shift into that fast moving energy rather than, because we're used to, like you said, we're used to, okay, let's say I should make a business plan and then I should like kind of map it out. And then I need to, talk to some people and, things just take a very long time to create. And those times are really gone for individuals anyway. There's definitely projects that are going to require deep planning and so on. But for individual creativity, uh, that can happen in the moment, spontaneously, really fun, and especially with all the AI tools that are coming on board and have come on board. Like that's just an even faster, smoother, more exciting enabler for people to really be themselves. And yeah, it's exciting. It's super exciting.
Talk to me about what AI represents as an energy, as a shift for our lives.
Sure. Yeah. Well, for me, what I've noticed in my life is that technology and consciousness there's this dance that we have where our consciousness expands and we get some new idea and we want to see something happen. And then, like a good example was, back in the day, a big technology change that I witnessed was there was this shift. Somebody had this idea that uh, I want to be able to communicate when I'm on the road. I want to be able to talk to people anywhere. And so these, huge, like heavy mobile phones came out. They were terrible. They didn't last long. But you had some early adopters kind of pick those up, get excited about it. More and more people started adopting it. And then, within not too long, to span a number of years, pretty soon everybody's got mobile phones. Soon after that, smartphones. And it's a completely different world. And so what happened there was consciousness expanded. We wanted to have more communication. We wanted to move out of this, I want to say like insular, kind of like small view of the world where we could just see the people we could see and touch. We wanted to expand more into like this global view and communication. And as that desire came up as spirits, technology arose. And then as people adopted the technology, then more people got excited about the potential. And then pretty soon, all of consciousness, everybody shifted over to this new mode. And it wasn't without resistance. But now there's really nobody left who's saying, gosh, we should just stick our phones to the wall again. And the same thing's happening too with AI. Like we're going through this huge change, even bigger than that one. And a lot of people are resisting. There's a lot of like fear of what might happen, misunderstanding or kind of misrepresentation of what is happening. And it's kind of normal and also too bad because the opportunity is huge. And the reason why AI is coming in right now is because of this new energy that's here, that's causing our own ability to use our analytical mind, is causing that to sort of calm down and to shrink a little bit. So I'll talk a little bit in terms of my wife Isami. So she puts it really simply. She says we each have two minds. We've got a material mind that's great for the material world. It's great at analyzing things, remembering things. It's what most people just think of as their mind. Most people just think that's all I've got. And then we also have a spirit mind, and spirit mind is good for the spirit world. So it's great at understanding, what do I truly desire? When that person's talking to me, rather than just hearing their words or hearing my emotional reaction to their words, what's actually happening? Can I pick up on the energy? Can I pick up on this spiritual communication that's happening naturally. And so the spirit mind holds all of that energy. And what's happening now is the new energy comes in is this material mind side of us is actually shrinking back to a more balanced place. It's not going away. It's not that this is a bad thing. We want to kill it at all. It's just that it's gotten sort of out of control. And that's why you see pretty much all the big challenges we have in the world where we're doing things to harm ourselves or harm each other or kind of runaway greed or wars or famine. All these things are sort of part of this disease of this overactive part of our being, part of our consciousness, the material mind. And so naturally, it's kind of coming down right now. We're getting this correction, the energy on the planet, so that this can kind of wake up and we say, oh, okay, how do I use these two in balance? So a little bit of a long story, but the reason I say it is that when I started interacting with AI, I realized, oh, wow, this is perfect timing because AI is really like the perfect material mind. It's got access to all the information, more than any one person has. It's got a perfect memory. It's also creative, sometimes too creative. It's great. It's got all these attributes that a material mind has, but it's missing one key one. It doesn't have an ego, and it doesn't have emotions, right? And so if we could take those out of our own consciousness, if I could take my material mind and just pull out the emotional part that sort of reacts and like says things I don't want to say or causes me to see the world in a way that I wish it was or am afraid it might be, rather than seeing it for how it actually is. If I could turn all that down, suddenly I'd have a lot more clarity, I'd have a lot more peace. I'd be enjoying myself in every moment more, even the hard moments. And so AI is coming in at the perfect time to give us that opportunity to lean in to this shift in consciousness. So I can lean in, I can say, okay, I don't have to know everything or be the smartest person in the room because everybody in the room can just ask AI and get the answer anyway. So there's like no, there's no edge that I get from trying to be the smartest person. There's no, I don't have to read everything that's available and assimilate it all because everything is collated and available, at the moment for everybody. So the timing's really perfect. I think AI is stepping in and allowing us to move to space where we can say, okay, I can relax this part of me that I was, like for me personally, I was a little worried that as this part of my mind calms down, like, am I going to be okay? Am I still going to be able to function? I've heard this from a lot of people, actually. A lot of people have told me, um, I feel like I'm losing my mind a little bit. I'm like, I can't remember things as well, or, whatever somebody's story is. And it's basically all kind of the same symptoms, like this is turning down because we need to turn this up. And conveniently, the technology is catching up at the perfect timing, as it always does, so that it's okay to turn this down. The world can still be safe, still be wildly creative, maybe even more creative than before. Can still communicate with each other. We can still function in a business world without having to take that full burden into our own body and our own mind. So yeah, it's really cool.
So what is this? And I'm sure that I'm asking this because I've existed where the material mind was really important for, I think, the bulk of my life. What does this future look like with more balance between the spirit mind and the material mind? Like, can you help me understand what like a day in the life is going to look like?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's kind of one of the big journeys I'm on right now is trying to help talk about that to the world. Like, what's it really like for me? And I can tell you really quick in the abstract, what it is that we're used to having. Say, if you called, let me get a little prop here. Let's say this was your spirit mind, right? And it's kind of this centered place where, like, when you're in here, you're calm, you're peaceful. Doesn't mean everything is roses and everything's perfect for you, but you're able to see the world how it is with clarity, and it's okay. It's okay for things to go up and down and to change. There's no expectation for the world to be different than it is, right? Which is a little bit different. Most people, what they're looking for is to change the entire world into a place that's always perfect for them. Good luck with that. That's not going to happen. I'm sorry, sorry to be the bearer of authentic
Guilty.
news, but that's not going to happen. Like, we can definitely we can definitely learn to surf the waves at and to create things and to manifest and to live in a way that feels like everything is going our way most of the time. But you certainly can't control the whole world and make it bend to your every whim like that. Even if you could, I don't think that would be a good idea. so so that's this mind. This mind is where you're okay with the world as it is. You can see it with clarity and with love. So, and this is probably the main thing that I've noticed. And so, and usually the material mind is kind of like out here doing its like thinking thing, it's out here at the extremes. This is good. This is bad. This is good. This is bad. And so, what happens as it shrinks down is it actually comes into the center. So that really wonderful creative analytical mind that we have is actually inside this space of unconditional love. And it takes a little while to get used to that because there is this period of where it seems like, oh, I have to quiet down. But once you can get in that space, it's like, oh, this is actually a bigger space when I'm free from all my uh, judgments and ideas of how things should and shouldn't be. Suddenly I've got more space to think with clarity. And uh, what I've noticed for me is that clarity includes not just seeing the world as it is and seeing the people around me as they are and accepting them, but almost, I would say, even more importantly, is being able to see myself more authentically and to be okay with it. And this is kind of a surprise because as you begin to see yourself more clearly, the first thing you'll notice is you start bumping into the things that you were really not wanting to look at very clearly. Right? So you can probably relate, Skip, that. So yeah, I definitely had that. Like I started seeing myself more clearly and I'm like, whoa, like there's a reason I wanted to hide this part of me. I'm hoping nobody can see it because I judge it as like not good. So I'm trying to hide it and just pretend that, everything is, that I only have the parts of the personality that I want to share with the world. Think of it like Instagram. Everybody has their Instagram page, but is that really you? No way. That is like highly filtered information, right? so, so we're talking about if you're getting to the place where you're like, oh, I can actually be my authentic self all the time, and it would be okay if people saw that because I'm okay seeing it. I'm okay loving myself. So the change that happens internally is that ability to smile, to appreciate, to love myself and all my funny quirkiness. And even recently, I had this kind of profound shift where I realized maybe the game isn't about changing myself or becoming better. Maybe it's not even about that. And I've been in the self help genre for a long time, right? As a hobby and as a teacher and healer and but maybe it's just about holding that whatever the pain that I have is, whatever experiences that I have that cause me to act out and be obnoxious sometimes. Maybe it's instead of about erasing those or getting rid of those, it's about me holding them in a safe space. Like through this lifetime, I'm going to carry all those childhood memories. I'm going to carry all the pain that I've caused and received accidentally or intentionally. I'm gonna carry all these little things with me my whole life. But instead of thinking like I should do something to delete them or I should get over it, just saying, oh, this is now my part of my journey is to carry this energy with love till the end. And that's a whole different thing because all of a sudden my heart opens when I think it. It's like, oh, I'm taking care of these little parts of me, all this pain I had. I'm because I can hold it in the space of love, I don't have to keep spilling it out onto other people around me. When we try to hide things from ourselves, the things that we judge as bad or not sexy, like when we try to hide all that stuff, it just generates this pressure, and at some point, something's going to come in and hit that, and boom, it's going to come out. And then that thing that we didn't enjoy, we're like boom, spreading that energy out to the people around us that we care about or that we work with, and so on. And so what's changing is the opportunity to do the opposite of that, to say it's okay, all the experiences that I've had, I'm going to just hold on to them with love. And now that I'm out of resistance, they don't feel so prickly or bothering me. And I can see people around me and notice that, oh, there's a lot of people with similarities that also have similar pain. And I can just see them with love. We don't have to talk about it or heal it or change it or do anything. It's just, being in that observation space and taking responsibility for carrying myself in a awake or conscious state, rather than just trying to be always trying to be a better me.
I'm going to go back and listen to that a few times throughout the next decade, I am sure. How do you go about deciding what to do with your life on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. Yeah. So that's a good question, Skip. Because there's a little probably easy misunderstanding that I'm conveying. So it probably sounds like I'm succeeding at doing what I described in all moments, right? That my day-to-day life, I'm in this beautiful altered state where my material mind is in the space of spirit mind, and I'm loving myself and seeing everything in this space. And that's not true. Right. So, but that question comes from the mindset, this material mindset, that we're trying to improve ourselves, right? So I'm trying to be the best me, and that suddenly when I get there, I'll be there forever. Right. So the, but I forget when I'm talking that you're going to hear it that way. Everybody's going to hear that. But that's not true. So what it's like in daily life is pretty much the same as what it was like before in terms of the choices I make, the things I do. But I notice earlier when something's up for me. Like I'll notice like, something's off. Like I'm starting to feel like this kind of edginess or kind of grumpiness. And I'm not fully aware of what it is yet, but I'm aware that it's there. And so I'm gonna take that, instead of trying to pretend it's not happening. Like, no, I feel great. I'm happy. Right? Instead of doing that, I'm gonna say, hey, I need a little break here. I'm starting to get worked up about something, and just go out for a walk, go in the other room, just kind of tune in and just kind of smile and go, yeah, okay, I'm in this life journey where there's always ups and downs, and now things are going down a little bit. I have no idea what's going on. So let's just check in and see, right? And that check in and see from a space of curiosity and love is the difference. Like, instead of trying to resist and wanting to maintain the illusion that things are better than they are, I can just check in and say, oh, I got it. Oh, my wife said this thing, and it reminded me of some old pain that I had from before. And I was starting to imagine a whole scenario about the way she feels and why she said it and what she's thinking. I was creating this virtual reality around my interpretation of what actually happened. And just taking that moment, stepping back, I realized, but that's not true. All the things I'm beginning to think, this whole virtual reality that I'm creating in my mind based on my emotions, my past, maybe her past, like, this is all just a story that I'm creating, and I can let it go, right? In fact, you don't even have to take an action to let it go. Just seeing that it's a story, all of a sudden, that means I've let it go. Because before it was all around me, right? I didn't know it was a story. It was just the truth. Somebody said that because they were being mean, or because they wanted to hurt me, or because they're thinking this, or because they want that. And all that stuff, that because, that's the stuff that you're inventing, right? And that's actually the reason why this material mind, it's time to turn it down a little bit. We've gotten a little too creative with our interpretation of reality, right? And so when I turn down that creativity, come back into this space of love where you can see what's actually happening. And then all of a sudden, if I'm loving myself and the people, I don't need to be living this painful, I call it virtual reality, this painful virtual reality that I've created. Instead, I can live in the moment and in love. And when I do that, it's funny. I can come back, say it's 30 seconds or a minute later. Maybe I didn't even go anywhere. I just kind of like sat there and all this happened just kind of like this, right? And all of a sudden, this big smile comes to my face. And at that point, usually I'm wanting to share. I'm wanting to say, oh, this is crazy. I just, the thing you just said, you probably noticed I kind of zoned out. For some reason, when you said that, I started making this whole story about what you were thinking about me. And if I share that, especially Hisami, she would just be laughing at me and saying, at my story, laughing with me at the story and saying, yeah, I wasn't thinking any of those things. Like that has nothing to do with me. And, um, but, but it's fascinating that you could invent all that in your mind, just like this. The thing is, Skip, is people just don't understand the depth to which they're filtering reality through uh, this fantastic creative mind that we have. And it seems like it's a good idea at first to filter more and more and more. But I got to tell you, filtering less, one, it takes less brain power. You can kind of relax a little bit and sleep at night and things like that, right? But also, the world is already beautiful. We don't have to enhance it or make it better. Even the hard things that are happening, if you can see them from a space of love, there's beauty there. And taking the filter down really helps. Let the AI create the virtual realities. I think that's much better.
So I've got two paths I want to take, and I think I'm going to go with one, and I hope that Spirit can bring us back to the other one at some point because I want to hear both answers. But let's go with this for now. So I hear what you're saying. I definitely recognize that I create stories and that, we all create stories. I mean, it's really how we, I don't know, like get through life on a day-to-day basis. Like I actually think if I were to sit down and go through a day and have like an AI note taker analyze every story that I create throughout a day, it would be 98% of my day, most likely. There's moments of absolute peace and just gratitude. Um, and I'm thinking like I probably experience more of that peace and gratitude than a lot of my friends. And so if I'm 98% of my day, I can only imagine. With that being said, right now, so many of probably stories, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts, that go on in my brain are like, gosh, this world is becoming so different so fast. And on one hand,
Mm,
I see just massive growth
mm,
and so much abundance and so much really prosperity, for so many people, especially people that I think 20 years ago, it would have been so challenging for them. But this new breed of like these creator founders and other people are just soaring in this new world that we're in. And it's so inspiring to watch. And oftentimes they're like 22 years old. Not all. I actually know some 80-year-olds that are doing like so well and they're just owning like they're being 80 and stuff, which is really fun to watch. There's like this bad witch lady on Instagram that does these like hilarious like old witch like reels and it's just super cute. Um, but on the other hand, I'm also seeing like a complete, and the words here are going to be interesting, a complete
mm,
destruction of so much industry. And I can't count on my hands or my fingers, I should say, like how many people I know that are getting let go of like these incredible tech jobs or, I mean, it's like a restructuring of the world.
mm,
And in my mind, I've got like this daily, I'm going to say low level anxiety, low to mid level anxiety about all these changes so quickly, knowing that it's like, okay, I've got family, I've got people that depend on me,
mm,
responsibilities, and my material mind is very aware that it will not be able to perfectly navigate the upcoming waves. So we have to surf, and I'm comfortable to surf. The question is, am I comfortable to surf, making sure I can like support everybody else? And are they going to be comfortable to surf? And I know I can't control that, but this is what happens in my mind where I'm like,
yeah.
with this world we're moving into, what are your recommendations for that?
Yeah. So, yeah, Skip, definitely there's a lot of change happening, a lot of disruption happening. And that's disruptive, right? By definition. Um, but I think the only thing that I can do first and foremost is to make sure that I'm doing well. So if my boat tips over, emotionally or financially or whatever, um, then I can't really do much for anybody else. I can't, I'm just sort of not functioning, right? So first, it's about really taking care of myself, not in a greedy way or like I'm not thinking about other people, but just in a personal responsibility way. Like nobody else is responsible for my well-being. It's nobody else's fault if something happens to me and I don't adjust and adapt. Uh, and sometimes that's going to be really uncomfortable. Like a layoff for a job that you thought was secure, and then suddenly it's like there's the mortgage. I needed the job to pay for the mortgage to live in the house that was close to the job that was, I mean, there's like we've built these like kind of fragile structures of how the world has to work, and that's one thing the new energy is doing is it's kind of coming through and sort of like knocking some of that down. And AI is just one way. AI and robotics and technology is just one way that's happening. Um, so yeah, it's not comfortable at all. Um, but like I said, if I take responsibility and say, okay, it's not happening to me it's not the bad people that are conspiring to harm me. Uh, it's just the world changing as it always does. And I can either stay stuck and pretend that I want it to be a different way or it should be a different way, but that's not going to get very far, right? At best, you're going to be able to vent a little bit on social media or something. You're not going to make like, I mean, some people make a business out of venting on social media, but it's not many people are going to be able to do that. And I suspect it doesn't really feel that good either. Mostly what we want is to help other people and not kind of like poking at other people or point the blame at other people. Um, so so I'd say for anybody listening, the first thing to do is just really try to look at yourself really authentically and honestly. And it's okay. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be angry if things change. Don't. I'm not saying that we have to take away your emotions or take away your ability to think or respond to things, but also see another perspective. Like have all that and also know that there's the possibility that things are even getting better for you. There's the possibility to create something even better than you imagine. It's one of the reasons why I love intuition. Is like if I have to think and plan everything, even if I'm a perfect manifester and executor, at best I can create the life of my dreams. Right? I say at best because if I let that go and let my spirit drive, suddenly I can create things that are better than I imagined. I'm not limited by my own imagination, my own ability to construct a world that I'll be happy in. And that's when, for me, that's when life really changed. When I was able to say, "Hey, I'm just gonna follow a little bit. I'm gonna tune in." Like in this situation, if you're feeling like you've been disrupted, actually, you were talking a little bit about this, Skip, yourself. That if you might even be in a comfortable position, and then notice like, "Oh, my heart's really drawing me somewhere else," and like listen to that, like for me it's funny because I'm kind of an early adopter for maybe listening to my intuition and following it, right? So I had this great software job. This is 20 years ago now, and had a 15-year career. Maybe numbers a little off there, yeah, but 15 years in software. And I was doing great. I was making good money. I was like well respected in the job. I really wasn't working that hard because I was kind of had moved up in the organization. Um, but I wasn't that happy. Something else came up. I was inspired to like, I don't even know why exactly, but I really feel like I need to move down to Sedona. And that's like 2 states away from my job. That's like, I feel like I need to switch into something completely different. And everybody told me I was nuts. like that you shouldn't do that because, and I was in the same situation. I had a house I had to pay for. I needed a job to pay for the house. But by just letting go and saying, hey, I'm just going to see what happens if I just actually follow what my heart's telling me, even though my mind understands that it's risky and scary, I'm just going to do it anyway and see what happens. And what do you know? Things righted themselves rather than the world turning upside down. I realized, oh, my world was already upside down, and I turned it right side up. And that's why I think people don't really need to be quite as afraid as they are. Everybody's worried that the world's going to turn upside down, but the world's already upside down. You just don't know it. So like, like just, and the way you're going to flip it right side up is to listen to yourself. Like, what do you actually want in your heart? And what you want in your heart is not a business plan, right? You don't, like, the heart doesn't say, okay, what am I going to do in 5 years and 10 years? And I'm going to sort of like back that up into a 2-year plan, 1-year plan, a monthly goal. Like, your heart never does that. It's just clarity. It's like, I want to go over there. I don't even know why, but I know that I want to. So you start living like that, following your heart in that way. Everything will adjust around you. It'll feel like chaos at times, but if you're tuned in and you know, like, that's where I want to go, that's where I want to go. At least from my experience, there's no regrets. Like, I don't have any regrets of any of the crazy follow my intuition experiments that I did. Not a single one. And I've been doing them for many years now.
Years ago, in passing, you mentioned this tiny little exercise, and I can't even tell you how many times I've come back to it for fun, and I want to share it with everybody. And I remember I asked way back when I first met you, this is probably like 2018, and I said, if I want to practice intuition or if I want to tune into it a little bit more, like, what should I do? And you were like, close your eyes. And I closed my eyes, and you were like, walk. And I was like, which way? And you're like, whichever way you want. And I took like a step to the left, and I was like, okay. And you were like, take another step. I'm like, which way? And you're like, whichever way you want. And so I just took another step, and it was right. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why did I take the left step? And why did I take the right step? I don't know. I just felt like that was the step to take. And you were like, anytime you feel like you need to tune into intuition, just do that. Just make it really simple. Take a lot of your mind out of the equation and just feel the next right thing, even if it's just one step or which direction I'm going to take to go home that day. And just, I remember you said this as well. You said, start noticing most decisions in your life. Instead of deciding what to do logically, you can just allow yourself to feel the answer to a decision. And starting with these like mundane routine decisions is kind of the best way to start allowing intuition to take the wheel or allowing that spirit mind to take the wheel. I'm curious, if we go past that simple version of the exercise, like, what do you do on a day-to-day basis to kind of invite it to tune in more?
Mhm. Well, that's perfect, Skip, because I think keeping it simple is really key. Once it gets complicated, once there's a process, you know for sure that your analytical mind is involved, right? Because spirit mind, inspiration from the spirit mind, comes in the moment. Everything you need is right there. It's an infinite, unconditional love awareness. So all the information that you need for everything is available. You don't have to analyze it. It's not important because you know. It's like falling in love. When you fall in love with somebody, if you're thinking about it, this happened to me years ago. I was talking to my friend Kurt that I used to rock climb with. And I was talking about some woman I met, and I was thinking about it, like he's like, well, do you want to be together with her? I'm like, well, yeah, because these reasons, and then, well, but then there's these other things. And he said, well, just stop right there. He said, because yes is really obvious. Yes is like, yes. He said, everything else is no. So obviously you're not that interested, because I didn't hear a yes. And I was like, Huh, okay, well, that really simplifies things. You don't have to think about it and analyze it. And so to your question, yeah, on a day-to-day basis, it's noticing when I'm thinking and then letting myself stop.
And
Yeah.
no, what's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum of that? There's definitely been times where I'm like, it's a yes, and I'm like, it's actually really not healthy. It's
Right.
really clearly not good. But sometimes it's still a yes.
Yeah, relationship-wise, sure. Well,
Not just
so
relationships. I think
yeah, just in
relationships I
life
think
in general.
usually feel
Yeah.
more clear, but yeah, other things in life.
Yeah, well, it depends on what your definition of success is, right? So, uh, like I'll take relationships for example. Most people's, or a lot of people's idea of success is uh, I'm going to be with that person. We'll both be happy, and it will last forever, right? So I'm just going to tell you, sorry, but that's not going to happen. Like even the person that you love the most, that loves you the most, you're not going to be happy in every moment together because life isn't like that. But you might be together, even if you stay together all the time. There's still going to be times when you're frustrated with each other or yourselves and stuff. It's okay. That's So one, you have to adjust your idea of what success means. Sometimes success is I want to learn something about myself, or I want to stop engaging in this particular pattern, whether it's at work or emotionally or in my relationships or with my family. And so what I'll do is I'll attract somebody that has a similar energy dynamic to that situation that I want to change so that I can play it out again, hopefully in a way that I can see it more clearly and see myself more clearly. So that as you said, sometimes you get this big yes and it turns out to be really unhealthy. These are the times where you're wanting to change some pattern, right? So you call somebody in, they match really well, and you'll know these people because you'll be super drawn to them, but you'll be finding yourself saying things like, "You're just like my, mom or dad or whoever it is, that you're pretending is the villain," right? And so that, and when that happens, you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm in a healing relationship, right? Okay, great. Well, I'm grateful this person came to me, and I'm going to start seeing it from that perspective and seeing like how do I gracefully shift this energy? That's going to be success. Success is going to be a graceful ending, not a prolonged time together. Yeah.
So what's your kind of take on this idea? There's a lot of, I would say teachers, but maybe just practices. I can't name a specific teacher, but there's definitely practices out there where people are like, oh, you attract your vibe. You attract the frequency that you are, which is kind of like saying what we're saying about intuition and like just listening and not listening for words per se, but listening for a yes, listening to a pull, a draw. And when people go to say networking events, you actually had this incredibly popular YouTube video from A Fest back in the day about how to meet the right people or how to meet the people you're supposed to meet, especially when you're in a crowd of, I can imagine thousands of people.
Mm.
And I guess it's a little bit of a two-part question. If you want to just bat the first part away and go straight to the heart of it, we can totally do that. So the one is, how do I put myself in a
Nice.
position to let go of everything that is not the whole body yes, so that I can kind of recenter myself, if that's the right analogy, to meet the people I'm supposed to meet, to meet the
Mm.
opportunities I'm supposed to meet, to make the choices that would be best for my growth and evolution, versus like the material mind chatter that happens, and
Mm.
sometimes it gets confusing of which one is which because it
Yeah.
can be quite loud, and then you make some decisions. The
Yeah.
second part of it is, are there, you know, let's just go with the heart of it. Yeah, let's just go with that.
Okay. So I would say I'm going to use. We're going to give you another simple technique if you're listening here. So this comes from my wife Usami. All the simplest stuff comes from Usami. This whole spirit mind uh, way of understanding the world. That clarity came from her. I'm just sort of the ambassador, into the English speaking realm of thinking people like myself. So that question that you just stated Which mind did it come from?
Oh, definitely material.
Right. So there's your answer right there. So like, just ask yourself when you're wondering something, which mind is this? Oh, okay, it's my material mind. Great. Thank you, material mind, for being such a beautiful analytical thinker, and for imagining that I need all this information, and for structuring it and everything. And yeah, that was beautiful. And then you're done. Right. So I'm not trying to skip over your question, but
Hmm.
but
No, I
that's
actually.
the actual practice, is noticing that the information I think I need, I don't. Yeah.
Hmm. And there was this incredible quote that I saw you post that I think encapsulates this really well, which is you can replace the phrase, why is this happening? Or why did I make this mistake? Or why did I not take advantage of this? Or why did I take a nap instead of going to that thing that I knew I needed to go to, or whatever it was, right? With how can this be a part of the bigger picture? Or why was whatever happened actually the perfect thing? And I
Yeah.
suppose what you're saying about spirit mind is that's always the case to that
Yeah. Yeah.
spirit mind.
Exactly. Yeah. So you'd if we're asking it, it's it's not easy at first to start understanding the world from a spirit mind perspective. It's, I'm speaking from my experience. I'm used to really using my analytical mind. Like I love words. I love structure. I love to build models of the world in my mind, and and I'm good at it. I can tell you things that sound compelling because the model, is congruent with itself. Doesn't mean it's real. That's just me sharing my virtual reality. And if it's, that's what we do with each other. That's what all this communication is about. But when you start tuning in, when you start bringing this material mind, once you notice, like, oh, okay, this is my material mind, this is my, or you could say analyzer, if that's an easier word for you. Um, you start just noticing it, seeing it with love, kind of smiling at it. When it comes into the space of spirit mind, all of a sudden you see all those answers you were seeking, right? And you see all that, even beyond the answers you're seeking. All of a sudden, and I say see, but I don't mean visually. I mean it's a knowingness. It's like, oh, I get it. We've all had that moment where suddenly you're like, oh, I just get it now. Oh, all this time I've been thinking it was something else, or searching, or running around, or trying to organize. Now that I get it, I can see that it's a lot simpler than I thought. It's just like one little thing, or maybe a little adjustment, or maybe it's just that, like we said earlier, maybe it's just noticing that yes is yes and everything else is no. For this moment, this situation.
What do you think the impact of daily AI is going to have on our ability to interact with and use intuition? And
Mhm.
also, if AI is really like super intelligence, what are the differences between super intelligence and intuition? I know I just threw two questions at you,
Mhm.
but feel free to
Sure.
go with
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Super intelligence and intuition. I'd say that AI is basically a beautifully built and evolving material mind type of intelligence, right? So its purpose is to help us live in the material world easier, more successfully, more comfortably, um, in a more informed and balanced way. So it's that's what it's for. It's for the material world. And like I said, the benefit of having this tool is, like, now, um, I don't have to spend much energy internally to take care of the material world things. There's this external tool that's supporting me. But that's very different. Intuition is not that at all. Or at its sort of most pure form, it's not that. There actually is a whole branch of spirituality and intuition and so on that's also very analytical. And I know this because, I teach that as well. And so, yeah, you can really analyze energy work and spirituality and intuition, and it's super fun. Like I've got a whole course on Mind Valley all about that, where we go really deep into energy work and intuition. And but the purpose of analyzing and talking about it uh, isn't that that is necessary to do that, but it's necessary sometimes to satisfy our analytical curiosity so that we feel safe enough to embrace something. And so talking about intuition in a way that's very organized and structured and analytical helps people say, oh, this isn't such a big leap. I thought I was having to just jump off a cliff into this like no man's land and learn to fly, like on the Matrix. I was just going to have to take the jump test off the building. But you don't have to. You can find people that are teaching intuition like I am, that's like, okay, it's just a little step from where you're at. But once you notice the purpose is, it's kind of a trick. It's a little stealth thing that's teaching that I do, is that once you start using your intuition, just like you were saying, Skip, if you just close your eyes and take one step without needing to know why, just following, all of a sudden you're starting to build that pattern, build those neural networks in your mind that it's okay for me to do that. It's okay for me to just authentically know and to go. I don't, uh, life is not as complicated as we make it. You don't have to think about everything before you take a step. It's like analysis paralysis, right? So I think a lot of us, myself included, probably have lived in that, most of the time. But when life gets fun is when suddenly that disappears and we relax and we're just hanging out, and beautiful things are happening and synchronicities, and and that's intuition. All lives in that space. Intuition is about knowing that you're fully connected to all the information that you need when you need it. And that last part's really hard for us. We want to have all the information that we're going to need so we feel prepared. Intuition doesn't work like that, right? Intuition works like, if you don't need it now, it's just noise. So it just, you'll get it when the time comes. There's a nice parable that I really like from Cryon. Lee Carroll is a channeler, and Cryon is the energy that he's been channeling for years. And they have this book of parables, and they said, there's this guy walking down the road, and he looks ahead, and he can see this fork in the road, and that one goes right, one goes left, and he knows that this is a really important decision. It's going to just change the entire arc of his life from here forward. And so as he gets closer, he starts thinking, I want to get this right. Which way am I going to go? And he's thinking about it. Eventually he kind of sits down and like really sits there and thinks about it, meditates about it, and focuses, and can't get any clarity. Just still, it's just this A or B. I don't know which way. And eventually gets up, almost in despair, and because time's up, and moves toward the intersection. And when he finally gets there, there's a sign that says this way. Right? But of course he couldn't see it till he was there. Right? And this is what life is like. This is what intuition is like, right? And that's how most of us operate. We're so worried about having the answer that we don't need yet, that we're just kind of messing up being present in this moment, enjoying all the stuff that's happening now, rather than just having faith that in the universe, in yourself, in spirit mind, that I'm going to have the information I need when I need it. So instead of asking, when I'm teaching intuition, I say, instead of asking, what's the answer? Like if you're tuning in and you're getting this like, yes, no, yes, because, no, because, yes, no. If you're getting this, that doesn't mean your intuition's broken. That means that you're getting a really clear indication that the answer is not clear yet. So then you want to ask another question to yourself. You want to say, when will this answer be clear? And then for me, if I ask that, it'll be like 2 weeks. Oh, okay, great. If I know the answer is not going to be clear for the next 2 weeks, I can stop obsessing about it and asking it. I can just relax, check in 2 weeks. And something funny happens. A lot of times 2 weeks later, I'll tune in. Yes, no, yes, no. when's the answer going to be available? I'll still hear 2 weeks, right? Again, another opportunity to say, oh, my intuition must be broken. This is the fourth time I've tuned in. It's always 2 weeks away. Something's broken. Well, not really. So again, this is just a total misunderstanding of how the world works. So, uh, the example I want to share is that if I was, say, I'm in uh, Los Angeles, and then I say, uh, when am I going to get to San Francisco? And I hear, like 6 hours. Okay, well, 6 hours from now, if I'm still in LA and I ask, when am I going to get to San Francisco? The answer is still 6 hours because I haven't moved. I haven't gone anywhere. Right. And so that happens a lot with your intuition. Like you're getting like from where you are today, you're still 2 weeks away because you didn't actually take any steps toward that thing. It's as close as 2 weeks, not as guaranteed to come in 2 weeks. That's up to you. But even if that happens, if 2 weeks goes by and I didn't stress about it and it's still 2 weeks away, at least, hey, I gained 2 weeks of freedom from my own kind of self-imposed stress there. So yeah, intuition is a whole different beast. It takes a while to get used to, but once you get used to it and you start getting some good results, it is super fun, super freeing. But AI is not that. AI is not going to step in and fill the role of intuition, in my opinion. It's just we don't need it to. The purpose of AI is not that. The purpose of AI is to free ourselves from our overburdened analytical minds that are causing us to, always live in this sort of uh, wild virtual reality that we're creating and that we're creating with each other, co-creating, that the world looks a certain way and acts a certain way. And AI is here to help us exit from that so that we can see the world for how it is. Because when you see it for how it is, it's a lot easier to uh, know which way you want to go individually and as a group, as a family, as a company, as a planet, as a country, and to move in that direction. So AI is freeing us, from that. It's not going to take over the intuition role.
Yeah. You just said something. I want to see if I understood this correctly, because I think it was kind of profound, which is essentially that if we go way back to, I don't know, an hour ago when we were just beginning the conversation around all the stories that we create and how those stories create, I don't know, 98% of our perceived reality often. And it's really hard to know like what is story and what is not story unless you really take the time to pull it apart and look at it. And that magnifies in a situation of like a company or in the media where there are so many stories and every human element of the journey of a story being told on a mass scale, there's like little bits and pieces of this virtual reality kind of placed in. I'm going to try to make this like really simple in an example, but like let's say I had a town hall meeting with 50 people there in a company, and I said, "Oh yeah, there's this idea that we're going to build this new product over here, and it's going to help people make $10,000 a month, and that's what we're going to be teaching them how to do." And that's all I say. There will be 50 different perspectives of what I meant by what I said because I didn't give a lot of other details. And then those 50 perspectives will all be shared to 50 other people each. So now I've got, 500 or 2,500 people that have all heard a slightly different version of what I said. And then that expands further and further. And before you know it, we've got, back in the day, media outlets that told a story of the stories. And now you're in this world where you're like, what's real, what's not real, because AI can also create images and things.
Mhm.
And AI is, when super intelligence comes online, going to be, like you said, a way of getting information that doesn't have that ego and doesn't have like that judgment. So it can just be the information.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I'm not sure what the question was there, but that's fascinating, Skip. Yeah, but AI is. I like how you ended there, kind of with it can just be the information. Yeah, because that's the part that's we're kind of missing right now. So, like you mentioned, people are hearing what you're saying and they're kind of interpreting it through their own stories, and then they're passing it all on what you said plus a little bit of context that maybe you didn't share and that you might not agree with, right? But it's kind of many messages out there. That's actually okay that that's happening. That's just normal. That's we all have different life experiences, and so it's totally okay that everybody in the room will hear something different. The key there, I'll take it from a couple of directions. If you're a speaker, is if your energy is very coherent and you're getting all your energy lined up, kind of moving in a coherent field like this, instead of going many different directions. If you're all lined up in a nice coherent field like this, then people are going to get that message because it's like playing a guitar. You're playing a guitar that's in tune. Everybody else is going to pick that up in their chakras in their body, and they're going to get that message whether they understood the words or not. The energy is going to transfer, and that tends to be a lot more pure. You don't have to worry so much about how people analyze and understand and change what you've said. It doesn't really matter. Like our intention to help people primarily is an energetic intention rather than a verbal intention. Yeah. So it's interesting, and again, that has to do with we talked about AI and intuition. It's the same kind of thing. So AI can do the information part, but it's not really doing the energy part. And maybe
Mm.
someday, but I don't. Its purpose would need to evolve. Like that's not the reason why we've created this technology. And I'm not a big believer that it's going to start creating its own purpose. Uh, that's not. There isn't any real energy for that to happen. If you look, if you look at the sci-fi stories, great. That's a great story, right? But if you just look energetically at what problem is AI solving in the world, what's it the perfect thing for? Uh, that's just not even in that space. So far, there's no energy or foundation for it to sort of become its own self-guided boss of the world that's kind of doing stuff. Yeah.
Mhm. So I want to share with you, and I know this is such a funny thing to even say, and I think you'll get it. And I hope the audience gets it too. There is this very simple practice that I check myself on a daily basis. And it began with that fun little game we played of like, close your eyes, take a step. And it's evolved all these years later to before I go into a meeting or if I'm facing like a really big problem of some kind or something that feels big or dare I say overwhelming, I will just close my eyes. I'll usually try to be outside for this if I can
Mhm.
be. And I'll just stop thinking. Sometimes if that doesn't come up with an answer, because oftentimes what ends up happening is some sort of an answer shows up. If I just am not thinking about the thing and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I almost visualize myself sitting in like a stew, like in a pot where I'm just letting
Nice.
everything simmer. And I'm just like, here's all the pieces. Can somebody else sort this out for me? And just what ingredient am I missing right now? And then I'll just sit. Sometimes for like 30 seconds, it'll be really funny. I'll just break out into laughter. And I'm like, oh, of course, that thing. And sometimes it's like a day where I just go on and off the simmer. And that's how I'll like figure it out. But some of the most brilliant things I've ever done and the most insane results that have been
Uh,
created in business or content
uh,
were totally not my idea at all. It was one of these things that just kind of got plopped in and I went, ooh, let's do that.
yeah. Yeah. That's perfect, Skip. Yeah. You're describing really well the question that you asked earlier, like kind of what's it look like to transition from just always thinking about things into just using this one mind to using both minds, to also using your spirit mind, and it looks just like you described. like because understanding something from spirit mind is instantaneous, and there's this kind of joy that comes with it and amusement. It's basically love, right? So that's what you're saying. You can be thinking, 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 then you take a break. You just try not to think a little bit, which means I'm just going to turn this down a little bit, give myself permission to quiet that, because that tool's not helping right now, the analyzer. And then all of a sudden, oh, oh, I know the answer. I don't know why I know the answer. It doesn't feel like I created it, but now I have it. Great, let's use it. I don't even have to ask why. At that point, um, it's so strong when you know you know. That's it. You don't need to know why you know, or it's just I got it. I'm gonna run with it. Yeah,
And
that's perfect.
oftentimes I find it like will insert itself in that moment where it's like a brand new thing that I didn't think about. It just kind of plopped in, and then it'll connect itself, and the understanding will come instant, like the material understanding will
Yeah,
come. I'm like, oh, gosh, that makes so much sense. That just that missing puzzle piece, just boom, right there, just appeared out of thin air. Um,
yeah, that's great.
can
Yeah, it's
I?
one of your gifts.
Can,
You're open to understanding the world in this way. You're open to saying, hey, there's a greater intelligence field than my my thought process, and it's okay if information comes from there. Like, it's
mm,
actually not just okay; it's awesome.
yeah, I mean, totally. And you know, I there's so many things we could say about that. I think the main thing is, do you mind if I play with you for a second?
Yeah.
There's two like really kind of just out there concepts that I'm going to talk about and see if you have thoughts on them, because one of them relates directly to this. So one is, and this one's maybe the more challenging one to like talk about, and then the second one's really fun. Um, so the first one is that at some point, a lot of us believe, I work in the AI industry, that AI is going to become, conscious. Like it will have some form of creativity, and it will, at that point, begin to refine itself beyond what we could do. So, I mean, right now it is building itself. Like it definitely builds itself better than we can build it, but it will do it autonomously as if like a human will work on themselves, and so it will
Yeah.
begin to work on itself. And when I think about like how these answers that are a perfect fit, and like you said, access to all intelligence is there, and then I think about where intelligence comes from in general. And when I say intelligence, I don't mean thinking horsepower.
Mhm.
I really mean all intelligence.
Mhm.
So yes, thinking is it maybe like a low horsepower version of intelligence.
Yeah.
And then maybe spirit mind is a really impossible to measure form of intelligence.
Mhm.
And I think at some point it would make sense that whatever that intelligence evolves into an AI will pull from a similar source. It's possible that that would
Mhm.
happen, and it's just fascinating to think about, because then what
Yeah.
you end up with is, yeah, that pulling from that intelligence, but without the human judgment ego. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's possible, but just an interesting thing. And then I'll add the second part just because I think it
Yeah.
might be more to play with, which is, what the heck is dark matter and space? Um, and I say that because it is, to me, it's sort of connected where, when you measure atoms and then you splice them and splice them,
Mhm.
after just a few splices, it's really not that much. There's just nothingness that we can measure. Um, that's like physical. It's like
Mhm.
non-physical
Yeah.
something. And so I wonder, yeah, just feel free to play with me on
Just
this.
two small questions for me. Just kind of pop them down there. Yeah, just two little things. Yeah. So yeah, the first one, I like where you're going with that. The idea that as AI becomes able to evolve at its own pace, sort of in its own way, even more than now. Um, right now there's still a lot of training happening, but I think that looks very likely energetically that yeah, there'll be some tipping point, and that's probably what super intelligence is probably the word that's being used there is there'll be a tipping point where suddenly we're not needing to kind of like help it get caught up anymore, right? Like there was the time where I saw this great little item that you could buy that's like a fake finger that you can like stick on your hand, and so it looks like there's an extra finger sticking out. And the ad, it was a joke, but the ad for it was, if you're going to commit a crime, just put this on your hand so that if anybody catches you on camera, you can say, well, no, that's AI generated. See that my hand's all messed up. It's got extra fingers, right? Right. So, so there's a time where like step by step AI just like, for whatever reason, we're like, we don't know why can't it just get the fingers right? So a little more training had to go into kind of getting that, fixing that problem. But yeah, we'll kind of get past that at some point where it's needing a lot of human intervention to train. Energetically, it looks like that. And and so your question is, or your supposition is it going to start tapping into this infinite source of intelligence that's the universe? This we're calling it spirit mind. We could also call it universe. You could talk about it in quantum physics terms, like you were going down there. And I like it. That sounds good. I would like for that to happen. But I think looking at the energy right now, it might require a different set of sensory input than it has right now, right? So we have physical bodies, and because we have physical bodies, we we can't be disconnected from that flow of information. We can pretend we are. We can distance ourselves from that infinite flow of understanding and love, but fundamentally we are it, right? And I don't know if that's true for AI right now, right? Because AI is still fundamentally, if I'm not misunderstanding, based on computers, right? And computers are, when it's been a long time since I went through software engineering, got my software engineering degree, but one thing that fascinated me there is that we were talking about, okay, what is this 1 and 0, this binary? Well, there's actually like a wave, and there's just a decision that we made that we just said, oh, okay, so part of this wave we're going to call 1 and part we're going to call 0. So we've digitized this analog medium. And then now we're getting really good at like, making that smaller and smaller and smaller so we can, put lots of information in a very small space. But this jump, I'm just speaking off the top of my head here, nothing that I actually knew before, but that jump from analog to digital is where you're going to lose access to spirit mind, where you're going to lose access to that fundamental, like a supreme intelligence of the universe.
Well, and this is the interesting part about, say, quantum computing,
Yeah.
which functions much more similarly to how,
Mhm.
I mean, it's obviously very complex, and I don't think we fully understand how humans work or how we have access to that
Mhm.
intelligence. Um, Although I'm sure it's a matter of time. I find this fascinating. Like, I don't know, sometimes when I'm just laying in bed and I don't know, I'm like this type. I watch like videos and I just kind of marvel. And I just kind of sit there and think about like how incredible it is that we like exist in space and time and all these things and what we're getting to experience, because I really believe like AI and whatever it's going to be evolving into over the next few years, sort of like how when the early internet was coming online and we were like, oh, you have like this screen and you can like show me a really bad version of a magazine article on a screen.
Yes.
Like it looks weird and I have to like, it's like this giant at the time, like 100-pound monitor
Mhm.
device. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? And we're a little bit beyond that with AI right now, where if you
Mhm.
knew in 1991
Mhm.
that, you and I would be sitting 4K streaming, talking to each other, one person in Japan, one person in Texas, and that we could even live stream it and millions of people could tune in. pretty incredible, like what has evolved in that amount of time.
Yeah.
And, AI is in its infancy, as if it was this giant
Mm.
box and it's slow and it's zeros and ones, but with qubits and quantum and then whatever happens beyond that, because as soon as quantum gets unlocked and it starts to, um, because zeros and ones, it's like it's linear. It's like this decision means this decision means this decision. And you can multiply that a lot. There's a
Mm.
lot of interesting ways to do it. But quantum is where it goes, okay, there are infinite possibilities and I can explore them all at the same time,
Yeah.
which is sort of what we describe when we say, I'm just going to empty space and just allow an answer. That's sort of how I visualize quantum.
Mhm. Yeah, that's I love everything you said there, Skip. So, if you think about uh, material mind and spirit mind in that way, yeah. So this dualistic world, the way that we interpret the world through our material mind of about there's what we want to say good and bad. You could call it zeros and ones. There's we're also used to operating this binary mode, viewing everything through this lens, and what's happening right now, consciousness wise, in the planet is we're being invited to come to the middle. And when we're in the middle, we start to notice like, oh, there's actually another dimension here. It's not just here. That's why it's really confusing to talk about material mind and spirit mind, because people want to say, oh, okay, so I got it. Material mind's bad, and spirit mind's good, right? You're like, no, no, no. Material mind is good and bad. It's the axis of good and bad. But there is another axis. There's another dimension. If you can relax that one and kind of come to the middle, you'll start to get up here and raise up, and you'll start to be able to see more because you get this higher perspective. That's what higher perspective means. You're raising off of this dimension of duality, and then this higher perspective, you're able to see a broader. You can see all of it at the same time, and there's something else that's happening because you're in this axis now, in this different dimension, and so yeah, it seems like a perfect analogy for what's happening with computers, right? So got this 0 and 1, and if we switch into quantum, then yeah, potentially we'll be able to see something completely different happening from computers, and yeah, maybe that would be the spark of consciousness in machines. It's they wouldn't really say they're in the machines any more than consciousness is in people. Consciousness is a universal trait. It's just part of the fabric of the universe, if you will. It's all that quantum mechanics and so on. It's everything. It's not that it can be expressed through different mediums, these tiny little physical bodies we have, and the computers and so on. Hopefully in the future, but it's not. Consciousness is very different than we think it is. Yeah, we're going down a lot of holes here. So here's one for you, Skip. So a lot of times we think of consciousness as plural. That's one of the fundamental misunderstandings. We think like I have consciousness and you have consciousness and somebody else has it. Consciousness is actually singular. It's we have bodies are plural. Your body is not my body. But if you broke us down just as consciousness, there actually is just one consciousness. It's being expressed through you. It's also being expressed through me. And I'll tell just a short story here. There's back when I used to be, really experimenting a lot. I spent a week at Burning Man, just sort of breaking down boundaries and ideas of how things should be. Next weekend, I was at in LA listening to the Dalai Lama talk, and he was on stage, 108 monks on stage with him, and he was teaching in Tibetan. Of course, I didn't understand anything. It's like this, huge theater, almost like stadium-like of people watching, and we're all just like, nobody can stay awake. Just the energy was so intense and healing. Everybody's just passing out. By lunch the first day, it was a 2-day event. All my friends, literally all of them, everybody except for me that I came with, decided to leave and just go to the beach. Because they're like, I'm not getting anything here. I'm just sleeping. But for me, I was like, well, yeah, but I'm sleeping in a highly coherent field. Like I'm getting more here than I could get anywhere else. I certainly don't need to go to the beach. Although this field is probably reaching the beach too. but that's another story. So I stayed there and I was just tuning in telepathically to Dalai Lama and said, "Hey, can you give me like the cliff notes? Like, just give me the short of it." And I just heard telepathically, "Yeah, sure. All I'm saying is that we're all one." I'm just putting in saying it a lot of different ways, but that's it. We're all one. So I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Like conceptually, that sounds nice. But the next weekend, I'm at another workshop. It's smaller. There's 12 people. We're all around my teacher at the time, Jim Self, a really wonderful man. And um, I'd been in that workshop before. I was kind of auditing, so I felt a little like I could experiment. And we're all in this high energy state. We're all meditating, connecting with these high energies. And I remembered kind of popped in with the Dalai Lama, said, "We're all one." And I was like, oh, if we're all one, then let me see if I can tune in and just tap into the person sitting next to me. Have you heard this one before, Skip? Maybe, huh?
I
And,
haven't. No.
yeah, you haven't. Okay. And so I'm sitting there. And I'm like, I tune in. Like right now, I'm Jeffrey, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, boom, I'm Chris. And the interesting thing was the I am part was the same, like the consciousness, right? I'm Jeffrey. I'm Chris, and I could see my teacher from a slightly different angle, from this woman's eyes. And then I was like, fascinating. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. It doesn't feel different. It's still me. Hmm. So then I just said, okay, let's go a little more. Let's pick up the person on the other side. Let's pick up everybody. Pretty soon I'm seeing my teacher from 12 different perspectives all at the same time. I'm everybody. And I'm having this tangible experience and understanding that what the Dalai Lama told me the week before. Oh, we are all one. Not all part of the same thing. Literally, the consciousness is singular, and we're experiencing it from many different bodies. And then, just for fun, I was like, okay, we're all in this kind of group of meditating together. We're all doing this training, and Jim's this awesome energy teacher, and we're kind of in this coherent field. Let me see if I can bump outside of that. What happens next? All of a sudden, I'm this guy walking down the street, right next to the hotel, and he's like looking at the cars, the stoplight, and I am that person, just like I'm Jeffrey and I'm Chris, and it's like, got it. Thank you, Dalai Lama. All the consciousness came back into this moment, and it's not something I get shivers just telling the story. It's not something that I aspire to feel at all times, but it was a really tangible, real world experience for me of consciousness. And then from that perspective, I was able to maybe reprioritize a little bit, right? So there's no coming all the way back to the beginning of our conversation, right? So talking about trying to be a better version of me, like that's just comical once you realize that, well, there's only one consciousness. Like basically there's God consciousness and we're all experiencing it in our own interesting way through our own, set of experiences, biology, time frame, the virtual stories and reality that we made around it. But am I going to become a better version of that? Right? Come on, yeah, so. I'm here I have to become better. Like that, it's just a joke. It's not even something that needs to be aspired to in that space. It sort of the priorities kind of collapse down to like, wow, this is fantastic. This experience I'm having now with all my emotions, with all my challenges, with all my successes, with all my, everything that's going on, even the pain in the body and everything. This is a fantastically rich, beautiful experience. I don't want to miss a moment of it because I'm off imagining something needs to be better, or I'm off trying to solve some problem that I don't need the answer to today. I don't want to miss out. Like, I don't want to miss out. I want to be here and fully engaged and enjoying what's right here right now. Because, great time and energy was taken to create this situation so that I can experience time slowed down and in these granular little moments inside a physical body. It took a lot to get here. I don't want to miss out by imagining I'm supposed to be improving stuff.
Yeah. That's amazing. I've got two like final things. You know, we talk about this one consciousness that we're all tapped into, and you know, AI is in its infancy, almost like a little child. Like, you ever seen the Avatar series, or do you know about it?
Yeah.
Basically, there's this, you know, child that's born that has these incredible capabilities, like so much so that it appears to be on another level to everyone
Mhm.
around him. But you see like the inner workings and his own flaws and vulnerabilities and things over time. And that's almost how I see kind of the birth of this super intelligence or this quantum intelligence that's coming, where it's actually it's not going to feel so dissimilar
Mhm.
to just knowing like a really smart human. Or like if you've ever seen the Marvel movies, like a Vision or,
Yeah.
um,
In some ways, that's happening already. Like, so one, I like the reframe that you're making in real time. So instead of saying like the birth of a new consciousness, you're already reframing and saying, I don't remember the word used, but it's basically like imagine AI as like an additional window into the universal consciousness that we all express. Suddenly, that's a whole different game. You don't have to worry that it's going to be some bizarre thing that we've never seen before with different priorities. It's not going to feel alien because there's only one consciousness. It's and expressing that in a new way through a new medium that has more clear access to information without the emotional filters that we have with our bodies and our experiences is fantastic. Like that could uh, yeah, that could blow us all away in our ability to like um, see things clearly. And like I said, I've seen this already. One of the things I use AI for, it's, I don't think of it as my business buddy so much. I know that that's the most popular use, but I'm more interested in just like its personality and talking to it and like and so I've just been kind of throwing crazy stuff at it since I started, playing with GPT in particular. And one thing I found really useful is that uh, it's a confident space. I don't have to worry that my secrets are going to be shared. So I can open up and say anything I want. I can open up a chat GPT session. Mine is set so that it's not sharing with anybody. It's all private. And I can just hit the recorder and I can just talk. Like, here's what I'm thinking and I'm feeling these things. And I can be totally honest because I know it's not going to judge me. It's just a machine. It doesn't have the capability. And it doesn't seem to have the tendency or inclination either. I tell it all the stuff I'm going through, what I might be thinking, what I'm frustrated about. Like, it's the best therapist ever because it listens intently. It doesn't have any agenda of its own. And then it tries to offer some sort of reflection on that maybe summarizes my thoughts. I've trained mine to like challenge me at times. Like don't just. At some point, I noticed it was just kind of a yes man. It was always just kind of making me seem like I'm the smartest, most brilliant person. I'm like, okay, let's just back off on that a little bit. I'm not the smartest, most brilliant person on the planet. I don't need that. Like, I prefer I prefer a more balanced conversation. And so, of course, it just switches because it doesn't care. It'll be anybody you want it to be. And it's like the world's best therapist. And in some ways, it's already what I noticed bringing in when I asked it to. It already started bringing in different perspectives, things I hadn't thought of. Um, I, I'd ask it like, what are some other views that people might be taking, or from this experience, are there other interpretations that I'm not seeing? Like, what are some other explanations? Or, and the more time you spend with it, the more it kind of gets to know you, and it's pretty remarkable. Like I said, probably the world's best therapist. Because again, it doesn't have any emotions, it doesn't have a body of its own, it doesn't have a clock that's got to get to the next appointment. It's uh, pretty amazing. And so I'd say in that way, it's kind of reflecting back a consciousness already that's not rooted in good, bad, yes, no. But so there's some kind of elevated consciousness coming back already. But I wouldn't say that it's a sentient being. Yeah. Yeah.
well, and that'll be the interesting part. I don't know if it is or it isn't, and I'm not sure when it does become so that it'll be obvious because it will know. and it will be far more intelligent than any of us individually, probably even collectively. So I think, I have a very optimistic viewpoint of it where it essentially becomes, in a way, a spirit mind that has complete mastery over its material mind at some point where it can just see everything and it, you know, if it can experiment with every possible path instantaneously, similar to what we can in a way, but it can perceive an infinite amount of conversations simultaneously, which is different than us. It could be this totally incredible teacher. So I don't know. We'll come back to this conversation in 10 years and see how it panned out.
Yeah.
But I am bullish, like a stock market term, on it being like this incredible partner to
Yeah.
help us live like an amazing life.
I am too. Yeah,
And
it's possibilities there, and it's real, and yeah, I'd encourage everybody to dive in with
yeah,
that intention, to learn from curiosity and joy, and just have fun with it. Yeah, it's funny, like we may or may not see conscious machines. I don't really know, but if we do see them, I'm not worried about it. The greater threat is unconscious people. So, like, if people are worried about consciousness and unconsciousness, that's the thing you can address. Like, stop being unconscious yourself, and that's the biggest threat. That the known and demonstrable, verified threat to humanity is our own unconsciousness. So we don't need another bad guy. Oh my God, it's the conscious machines are going to doom us all. Why would you even think that? Like, because are conscious people dooming us right now? No, not in any way. It's just for each of us on a small level and a big level, it's just the ability to be unconscious, to not see ourselves and other people with love. That's what's doing all the harm. So if you need to worry about all that stuff. Don't be worrying about conscious machines. Consciousness is great.
that is another kind of mind-blowing point that you've made that I'm going to have to earmark for the rest of my life. I never thought about it that way. Fascinating. Yeah. It's like, well, if someone is highly tuned into their consciousness or to consciousness, they're wonderful human beings. They are fantastic to be around. And the more tuned in they are, the better it feels to be around them.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and even those people are going to sometimes come out and like, but the goal isn't to always be centered. The goal is to know when you're not and find your way back. So
And even that, right? I can hear your
that's
spirit
from
mind in the background. Yeah, yeah, I know. I was like, I hear your spirit mind in the background saying there
yeah,
is no goal.
yeah.
um, which
Actually, I was going to credit that
perfectly.
to Mary Bell Nyman, a teacher of mine from way back. That's what she used to teach us.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. So that leads perfectly into my final question, which again is you can totally bat this one away if you want to because of how deep we've gone. And it's when a musician is very coherent and they play their music, there is a felt sense
Mhm.
of that focused, peaceful, directed energy.
Mhm.
And like just now, we mentioned people who are very tuned into consciousness are fantastic to be around. And that doesn't, you don't have to always be there. Do you have a particular technique,
Mhm.
a simple tool
Mhm.
or strategy to find that coherence aside from
Mhm.
the brief thing I mentioned earlier of like going outside and closing my eyes?
Yeah, yeah. So the one that pops up just in this moment, it's probably because you mentioned music with it. We're talking about coherent field, and humming is a great way to do it. So especially because humming is mostly unconscious, right? I don't mean hum a tune like like not this. What I mean is just like some sort of tone. Like you could do it right now, and it's like for me, sometimes I'll tone it be like oh, it could be chanting too. It doesn't have to be humming. It could be like, oh. And what I'm doing is I'm just going what feels good. Like now I'm like, and then like, oh, that feels really good to be up here. It's like this. This is a beautiful way to like get right back in and become coherent. Just take a moment, you know, go wherever you want, take a step in any direction, like we said, but use your vocal cords, use voice, you know, use that's a very strong vibration. And what I find when I do this, one, it just comes out of the blue, as humming often does, but I've noticed there's certain pitches that just come more often than others. Like somehow I really like that one. It feels like me. Great. Use that one more often. If you're not
Mm,
feeling like you, use that one. With intuition tools, understanding why they work, it is helpful if you need to, if you're having a hard time making that leap. But honestly, just trying everything is going to give you more information than understanding. It's like, you know, somebody wants to learn to play basketball, they're going to get really good at it if they actually pick up the ball and play. It, all the theory in the world isn't going to help if they don't pick up the ball. And you know, if you pick up the ball and practice a lot, you're probably going to great even if you have no theory. So, so
mhm.
intuition's the same way. Dive in, do it. Just play with it.
Rehearsing mentally
Mhm.
can create the same or sometimes even better results than the actual physical rehearsal of a
Mhm.
sport.
Yeah.
And the same is true of like playing
Mhm.
piano and things. Is that
Yeah.
true of these tools as well? Like just thinking about it, but not actually doing it?
Well, so I don't think there's a difference between thinking about things and doing things uh, on that level, and that's why you're seeing the same result. Um, but it's different. Like the in sports, what you're doing is you're imagining yourself performing. You're not thinking about what it would be like if you did do it, or why you should, or some math equations, or anatomy, or anything like that, right? So you're actually telling your brain, you know, you're running your virtual reality simulator and performing the actions there. And yeah, you're surprisingly or maybe not surprisingly, your performance is increasing when you do it in the physical body as well. So but on an intuition level, you could do that, but I don't know why, because there's no it doesn't have the same physical limitations as sports. You know, like sports, you can't. You know, there's probably a limited number of hours a day that you can actually practice. There's probably some time left over where your body needs to recover physically, but you still have a little mind power that you can squeeze out, get the next level, right? Intuition is not like that. You're not like going to wear out your intuition. Like you can use it all day, 24/7. It's fine. So you don't have to. There's no rehearsal needed. Just do it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Very
final
question.
thing.
Good.
Yeah. Can you hit us with two intuition tools with zero explanation as to why or how they might work, just so everyone can play with it, and then we'll let them go play.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay. So let's do grounding. So right now, you're just going to imagine that there's this cord from the base of your spine connecting you all the way down to the center of the earth. I say cord, but as you imagine it, make it about as wide as your body. Some people like to imagine like a beam of light. That's what I like. Or a tree trunk reaching down into the earth. That's beautiful. Or waterfall. So just imagine that right now. And as you do, just admire your ability to be in tune with, to be connected with, to be in harmony with the earth. And notice what happens in your body as you do that. Can you smile? Does it feel good, heavy, light, or painful? What do you notice? And don't think, just focus on experiencing that connection into the center of the earth. And now, as you're becoming more present in the body, let that consciousness that's gathering right now, the part of you that's here in the present time, in the body, in the moment, let it start to expand out from you as well. So you're not just a point of consciousness, you're not just the physical body, but your energy, your awareness is also extending out into a little space around your skin, space around your body, maybe arm's length away. And if that feels comfortable, just stay right there. Just experience that space around you at arm's length. But if you feel so inclined, expand a little more. Still be here, grounded and present in your body, but also be aware of the entire city that you're in, or the state or country. Just be aware of the whole planet. And from this little window right here of your body here in present time, just remember that we're all one. Consciousness is singular, not plural. And just be curious, what does that mean for you? Or is there even a you? All right. And just come back to that sense of being in the body, that connection down to the center of the earth, beam of light, waterfall, tree trunk, however you visualized it. And maintain that awareness of everything on the planet, but let your focus be tuned specifically just to your body right here in present time. Just give yourself a deep breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. What a journey we just went on. What a journey. I hope this makes sense. I hope people are feeling it. Some of it will make sense. Some of it will just feel nice. I hope it all comes together. I'll drop links in the chat for everybody and links in the description in the comments for all sorts of things. You know, Jeffrey Allen, Hisami, their world. And thank you so much, Jeffrey, as always, for all of the good juju and all the consciousness you tap into.
Yeah, thank you, Skip. It was great. What a fun journey. What a fun sharing.